Whispering voice. Kofi, too, became hollow. Their small home, once filled with warmth and laughter, now felt like a prison of sorrow. The grief consumed them. They could barely afford food, and the little they had, they fought over. Even though the seasons changed, nothing felt different. It was the same despair, the same hunger, the same pain. One day, as Kofi wandered through the market, his eyes dull from the fatigue of trying to survive, he ran into an old friend from his youth, Ebo. They had once been inseparable, laughing together, playing tricks, and dreaming of a better life. But over the years, their paths diverged. Ebo had moved to the city and had become a successful businessman. He looked different now, clean, well-dressed, his face free from worry. Ebo! Kofi exclaimed, his voice shaking. I never thought I would see you again. Ebo smiled warmly but noticed the sadness in his friend's eyes. Kofi, he said, his tone more serious. What's happened to you? You look like a man who has been through hell. Kofi told him everything, about the loss of his daughter, his struggle to provide for his family, and the endless cycle of poverty that seemed impossible to escape. Ebo listened patiently, then leaned in close. I know a way out. A way for you to have everything you've ever wanted. Wealth, power, success. But it comes with a price. Kofi's eyes widened. What price? Ebo's voice dropped to a whisper. There's a secret society, some call it a cult. They have a way of making people rich beyond their wildest dreams. But the method is unusual. It involves something dark, something you might not understand at first. Kofi, desperate for any hope, listened intently. Ebo continued, you see, the society has a ritual. You must sleep with a corpse. A woman's corpse. Every month, for as long as you want the wealth. The ritual may seem strange, but it works. It has made me who I am today. I can give you the name of the person who can introduce you to them. They can make your wishes come true. At first, Kofi hesitated. The thought of such a dark and twisted act repulsed him. But the image of his starving children, the aching memory of his lost daughter, and the crushing weight of poverty clouded his mind. He wanted to believe it was the only way out. Kofi agreed. That very night, Ebo took Kofi to a hidden part of the town. In a secluded, dark alley, they met a mysterious man who led them to a forgotten temple deep in the forest. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of incense, and shadows seemed to move of their own accord. The ritual began. Kofi was instructed to lie next to the body of a woman, her pale skin cold and lifeless. The chanting was strange, foreign, and hypnotic. His heart raced, yet he felt an overwhelming urge to follow through. As he obeyed the dark orders of the cult, a wave of intense power surged through him. His body tingled, and in that moment, the emptiness he'd felt for so long began to fade. When Kofi left the temple, he was a different man. His hands no longer trembled, and his heart felt alive with an energy he had never known. The next day, he received his first large payment, money beyond anything he had ever imagined. Houses, cars, land, it all came easily to him. He could finally provide for his family. His wife's sadness lifted as they moved into a luxurious new home, and his children never went hungry again. But with the wealth came the price. Each month, he had to perform the ritual again. Each time, the woman's body was different, but the process remained the same. And each time, something darker clawed at him from within, urging him to keep going, to keep sacrificing. Months passed, and Kofi grew accustomed to the darkness that now haunted him. He no longer questioned the rituals, for they gave him everything he ever wanted. He became known as one of the wealthiest men in the region, admired and feared by all. Yet, the more he succeeded, the more his soul seemed to wither away. Then came the last ritual. The last corpse he was to sleep with was a girl. She was young, no more than 30 years old, and her face was eerily familiar. Kofi couldn't place it, but something in her eyes made him hesitate. The ritual was carried out as usual, but something was different this time. The moment he finished, a cold chill ran through his spine. As the days passed, strange things began to happen. At night, Kofi would hear whispers in the darkness. The sound of a woman crying, a voice calling his name from beyond the grave. The wealth and power he had acquired began to feel like a curse rather than a blessing. He couldn't shake the feeling that the girl's spirit was following him. Everywhere he went, he felt her eyes on him, burning with hatred. One evening, as Kofi lay in bed with his wife, the temperature in the room dropped drastically. He could see his breath in the air. He turned to look at Afia, but she was frozen, her eyes wide with terror as if she could see something he couldn't. He heard the voice again, louder this time, calling his name. Kofi, you took my life, and now I will take yours. The voice was unmistakable, the voice of the girl whose body he had slept with. Kofi's heart raced as he realized the spirit was now haunting him. He tried to run, but every door in his house slammed shut. The lights flickered, and shadows danced on the walls, taking the form of the girl. Her face twisted with fury, her eyes burning with an unearthly light. You thought you could escape the consequences, she hissed. But your sins are now mine to claim. Kofi collapsed to his knees, begging for forgiveness, but the girl's spirit was unforgiving. She had been betrayed by the very man who had promised to protect the sanctity of life, and now, she would take everything from him. In the end, Kofi lost more than he had gained. His wealth became meaningless, his success hollow. The spirit tormented him night and day until his mind fractured.